But others, including Volodymyr Hrapun, had already been taken elsewhere. A long road trip via Belarus in the back of a military truck ended in Russia, where he was given this military identification document. It says he resisted the special operation conducted by the president of the Russian Federation. In reality, he was detained while volunteering with the Red Cross, helping people escape the fighting. The Ukrainian government has confirmed Volodymyr was returned to Ukraine as part of a prisoner exchange with Russia. He believes that explains why Russian forces are abducting Ukrainian civilians.
A lot of people don't know that when you volunteer to Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, UNICEF, these organizations where you go out and give help for people that are in need, you are putting your life in danger. And a lot of times these organizations will not say anything about this because they don't want people to quit volunteering, because all of these organizations still need a lot of people to help other people that are going through a crisis. So I wanted to show you this story because it is real when you go out there to volunteer. You go to some of these countries and they don't like you because you're American. They don't like you because of the color of your skin. They don't like you for whatever reasons. And you're putting your life, your family sometimes in danger. Sometimes some of these doctors and Red Cross workers are kidnapped and held for ransom in these countries. And if you don't give the money, they will tend to get rid of you, cut your head off, kill you. Put your family members in danger. You have to be careful when you're going out there volunteering for these organizations. And this is terrible that the Russians are taking Red Cross workers and killing doctors, and they've done a lot. And putting these Ukrainian civilians at risk as a shield to cover their own men, the Russian army. So I wanted to bring this video to you so you can know the real backdrop behind what's going on in some of these organizations when you go volunteer. Here's the rest of the story.
A volunteer connected to locally based Christian Broadcasting Network is being held captive in Ukraine. CBN reports her name is Valentina. She's a volunteer for Orphans Promise, a CBN humanitarian group. Russian soldiers captured her near Mariupol, a city under siege. CBN officials are asking for prayers for her safe return.
People saw it happen. Valentina has worked for 8 years in that occupied territory, Donetsk and Luhansk, and she has delivered seed to people. She has helped them work on their seed projects. And now during this expansion of the war, she's been doing nothing but taking humanitarian aid to people. And they came and kidnapped her and put a bag over her head and led her away. No one knows where they took her, where she is. So please pray for Valentina. We're asking that she would be released, asking God to send angels with her, that she would be released without harm.
Welcome to Straddled Events. On this channel, we bring you the truth. Sometimes the truth is quite ugly, unbearable, and you just don't want to deal with it. But on this channel, you're going to get it anyway. You are straddling between the fence of good versus evil, right versus wrong. And on this channel, we're going to tell you to do better. Let's go.
Doctors Without Borders confirmed 5 of its staff members have been released in Nigeria. This 5 weeks after they were kidnapped in neighboring Cameroon.
17 American missionaries, including 5 children, have been kidnapped by a dangerous street gang. Haitian police confirming the group from Ohio were taken from one of the most dangerous parts of the nation's capital.
It is like living in a war zone. You don't know when you're going to get shot at. You don't know when you're going to get kidnapped.
A foreigner is going to be an easy target. There are no authorities to go to. There's no police. There's no military. There hasn't been a military for decades.
Kayla was in a Doctors Without Borders vehicle when she was captured by ISIS in Syria. And while the organization worked to successfully get its own staff members released, it refused to do so for Kayla.
We could not take steps to negotiate for her freedom.
Why not?
Because we can't be in the business of negotiating for people who don't work for us.
The executive director of Doctors Without Borders USA, Jason Cohn, says the group never would have allowed an American to come to its hospital in Syria if it had known of Kayla's plans in advance. Once she was taken, wasn't she your responsibility?
No, she wasn't our responsibility anymore.
Was there no moral responsibility?
I don't think there was a moral responsibility.
They left her there, they deserted her. They were instructed by the hostage takers, negotiate for this woman.
And they did not.
They did nothing and wouldn't help us.
It says 12 Doctors Without Borders staff were killed and 37 other people were seriously wounded after an apparent U.S. airstrike hit a hospital in Afghanistan.
Aaron, Ukrainian officials continue to report a really notable escalation in Russia's efforts across the south and the east, both in their bombardment of Ukrainian positions, but also their efforts to drive forward and take territory. Ukraine insists, though, that it is still repelling those attacks. Ukraine says that it is continuing to inflict heavy losses on Russian forces, both through killing soldiers, but also capturing them as well. And Russian soldiers are accused of trying to compensate for the large number of its troops now in Ukrainian custody by targeting. War creates powerful connections between people. Volodymyr Hropun and Nadia Yarova didn't know each other before the Russians came. Now he's brought her news that inspires pain and hope. Volodymyr was recently freed from a military detention center in Russia. He says Nadia's grandson, Sasha, was there too. For weeks, Sasha's family didn't know if he was still alive. Seized and held by Russian soldiers in early March, they heard nothing about his safety after the invaders retreated. Vasily and Halina Hilyuk know the same pain and uncertainty. Volodymyr has told them he knows their son Dmytro was recently alive in the same detention center in Russia. He says he heard Dmytro's name shouted every day during roll call. There is comfort in that, but not enough to soothe a mother's anguish. I don't have hope anymore, Halina says. I know they are beasts. They will kill them and no one will find them. Ukrainian officials say dozens of people were abducted from around the town of Dyma, near Kiev, during Russia's occupation, and most were initially held here, in a sprawling industrial site the Russian forces used as a command post. This is where they were kept?
Yeah.
Ukrainian prosecutor Alexander Zuz shows me the conditions those captured people were forced to endure. A small, dark, cold room. People were packed together here, he says, hands bound, eyes taped.
In this place were 22 people. When they're trying to get to the toilet, they need to walk on legs of somebody else, because there are too much people.
He says people came and went, some spent weeks here. Someone tried to keep track of days by scratching marks on the wall. He says all the people who came through this room had only one thing in common. They were civilians. Several people who were kept here tell us they were frequently beaten and interrogated for local information. One man says his hands and fingers were cut to the bone by Russian soldiers because he couldn't help them. Does it make any sense to you that they did this?
No sense. I don't know exactly what kind of information they could take from these people.
This drone video captures the moment when Ukrainian forces attacked the industrial site, driving out the Russians. A number of those who were still locked in the room at that time tell us that's when all remaining captives were able to escape. But others, including Volodymyr Hrapun, had already been taken elsewhere. A long road trip via Belarus in the back of a military truck ended in Russia, where he was given this military identification document. It says he resisted the special operation conducted by the president of the Russian Federation. In reality, he was detained while volunteering with the Red Cross, helping people escape the fighting. The Ukrainian government has confirmed Volodymyr was returned to Ukraine as part of a prisoner exchange with Russia. He believes that explains why Russian forces are abducting Ukrainian civilians. He says they took us as goods that can be exchanged later, like a mobile phone or another commodity. Here, Volodymyr inspects a list of more than 40 names provided by the local government, a register of people from the area who are still missing. He says he recognizes most of the names from his time in the Russian detention center because he deliberately tried to remember as much as possible. He says sooner or later one of us had to be the first to be released, and that's why we tried to remember the names of other people, to let their relatives know they're alive. Aaron, the Ukrainian government says there is around 1,000 civilians that are locked up in detention centers in Russia. In its words, it says they have effectively been taken hostage. Those who have lived through that experience say Russia's motivations are pretty clear. They believe that they were abducted specifically to play the role of a currency, to beef up Russia's negotiating power in its efforts to try and secure the release of its own captured soldiers. Aaron.
The 3 employees of the organization Doctors Without Borders were near the town of Abi Adi, located west of Tigray's capital, Mekelle, when they were murdered. The Spanish branch of the NGO published a statement on Friday in which it said that the bodies had been discovered near their cars. It's unclear yet who is behind this attack, which comes as the Tigray region is facing a surge in violence, especially against civilian populations. In the same area, the town of Togoga was hit by an airstrike on Tuesday, killing dozens of people and wounding more than 100. The Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Friday expressed its condolences after this attack. It's been extremely difficult and dangerous for NGOs to operate in the Tigray region, as several humanitarian workers have been killed since this conflict began last November. It opposes the Ethiopian army backed by Eritrean soldiers and the TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front. The NGO Doctors Without Borders is one of the few international NGOs to go to remote areas in the Tigray region where civilian populations are suffering from a grave humanitarian crisis.